Hi, and thank you for joining me for another video. Friends, this week's Parsha is Parashat Trumah. And friends, the word Trumah means donation, something given freely without coercion. And we see that last week's Parshas Mishpatim, was enveloped with obligations, demands that weren't negotiable. However, we see that the beginning of this Parsha begins on a different tone. We have the Almighty asking the Israelites to bring him a voluntary offering or gift to see if we've mended enough to begin caring for something other than ourselves, to begin investing in the world's future. Because friends, this is what he wanted from us all along, to give without being forced to love without the need of fear, to believe without being brainwashed. Why? Because friends, that's where the power lies, in doing good from an independent state. Because friends, adolescence could only be tolerated for so long till you're just tossed out of the nest. In other words, demanding anything from anyone without giving them a chance to reciprocate ethically does not and has not ever achieved a good outcome. As a matter of fact, the relationship between God and Israel has always been one of master and apprentice. The master instructs and the apprentice freely reciprocates. And actually, what other way could the Almighty have known if the Israelites were on board after all the laws they received so far, but by giving them an opportunity to show what they've learned, and even perhaps an opportunity to fail freely. The Parsha continues with what he wanted the people to donate. The Almighty said, bring gold, silver, and bronze. We have to ask, where would the Israelites have gotten such things? Because remember, slaves didn't really own anything. In other words, the only similar objects the Israelites would have had was what was given to them by the Egyptians, which makes the whole situation a lot more ironic. Why? Because these objects were Egyptian pagan objects. Can you imagine the Creator finding any use for such despicable items? You probably always heard that the Almighty demands only the best or nothing at all. I mean, that's how we see our Jewish leaders behaving like today, right? People who value yichus over effort and blood over ethics. Bull crap. The Parsha is teaching us that the Almighty could use anything you could give him as long as you're giving it with a full heart and to see results. If you're young, if you're old, he can take your perhaps decrepit gift and transform it into something set apart and sanctified. Because friends, the Almighty does not care about your past. Rather, he's only focused on your future. And that's why in this Parsha, the pagan gold and silver were analogous to what the Hebrews were in Egypt. And although many would have said that you would have never amounted to nothing, just look at you now, made new and purified for the service of our God. And friends, another interesting area in this Parsha is that everything considered holy in this Parsha had no intrinsic value to begin with. In other words, nothing miraculously fell from heaven. And this is a principle that we've lost today, unfortunately. Because, friends, holiness cannot be acquired. It can't be transferred. It cannot be purchased or prayed for. As this Parsha teaches that it can only be developed out of something unholy or out of the lack of, in our case, righteousness. As a matter of fact, we see that from the same stash of Egyptian gold, they build the golden calf. So, friends, this notion, if taken seriously, eliminates the emotional need for the supposed modern-day holy men who either claim to have inherited the title or have just tossed it upon themselves, apart from their physical good deeds or their positive impact in the world. So, in other words, in Torah Judaism, you're only as valuable as what you produce, to the point that the prophet even states that the holy God is made holy only through righteousness. In other words, by doing good. And friends, the reason this is so important is because man has a tendency of admiring things because they may be intrinsically pure and not because they are morally right, which is why we see when Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the tablets and saw Israel worshiping the golden calf, he immediately broke them. Why? Because he knew that they would worship them also, to the point that Chazal teach that the reason that Hashem hid the body of Moses was because he knew that they would worship him, similar to how many silly Jews worship at graves today. As a matter of fact, even the Almighty dislikes this form of worship for himself. Why? Because because it's intellectually baseless and empty. But here, this parsha is showing us that not only can holiness come from junk, but that holy objects in Judaism are not intrinsically holy in themselves, but only acquire their holiness because of what they've been set apart for. Whether it's a Torah, a person, the Hebrew language, or the temple itself, apart from the good they produce or inspire, they're no more valuable than junk. Which is why we see way too often when Jews are faced with tragedy, the first thing they do is check their mezuzahs or tefillin instead of analyzing their deeds. Why? Because they placed intrinsic value on the objects themselves rather than the good they should encourage. In other words, objects in Judaism are no more intrinsically valuable than the intrinsic value of the person who made them, which is none. To the point that the Parsha teaches us that virtually every holy object in Judaism was built by a sinful man, including the Mishkan itself. Items which only gained their value in as much as it encouraged the Israelites to do good to others. And apart from that, they were just recycled Egyptian gold. So friends, daily and specifically in our religious lives, we must constantly ask ourselves, not only does something sound, feel, or look good, but does it do good? Because that's where its value lies. And if you're interested in learning more about Torah Judaism, please visit bejewish.org. And if you're interested in joining the Jewish people, becoming a Jew yourself, which I encourage fully, please visit Torah Judaism International at torahjudaism.org. Thank you.